Petronella, who are you?
Yeah, I'm a happy 46 year. I was just kind of messing up today. Also, I'm a 46 or 47, but I decided to be 46 today. A happy 46-year-old data nerd with a background in the fashion industry. A little bit of a impulsive personality who likes to build stuff and start new crazy adventures where there is something very kind of a deep kind of a culture and values and also some fantastic idea and passion behind the idea. So a little bit of a start-upper, you might say.
And now you are the managing director of Solita Sweden AB and has been part of the journey of building up Solita in Sweden, but let's not start there. I want to start. What was the diesel years all about?
Yeah, that was actually really kind of, you do a lot of stuff during your kind of career and working life, and this was actually my starting point of my real career. I have always been very kind of fascinated about fashion and passionate about kind of clothes and so on. And I started in the fashion industry, and then I got recruited to an important company who imported different kinds of brands like O'Neill, and then they had this very strange brand called Diesel with jeans that didn't come from US. And we have all kinds of different things that we imported. And then the Diesel jeans, we started to believe in them more and more and dumped all the other brands. And there started this fantastic journey with Diesel when it actually became larger than Levi's in Finland. And as we know, in Sweden, it has been huge as well and globally. So
I remember when my Levi's was not cool anymore. I had to go out and persuade my mom, we need Diesel, Mom.
Yeah. Yeah, and it was a funny story because the whole company had such passion and such kind of innovation capacity and such kind of a culture. We were like a family, even though we were placed in different countries, and it was such an international and crazy atmosphere. So it just also kind of gave me the kind of the platform of where I want to be, what kind of environment I want to work in. So really, really fantastic.
So what was that culture all about? A family, you have said before, very innovative, marketing, really high. Could you elaborate on
this? But
it's
a little bit kind of sticking out in a positive and good way. Just kind of making a little bit of waves, being somebody who shocks the market, does things in a different way. And that's something that I really like, just to not only to fit in, but to create a new market, to create a new way of thinking and introducing something that is so awesome. Yeah, that even the Levi's people changed.
Because I can remember, were we talking the 90s?
Yeah, it's in the 90s. I was there from, I think, 93 until 99.
Because I remember even the marketing and the whole feeling of the brand was quite different. So obviously the people behind that, how to make that happen in Finland and Sweden, quite special, must have been quite cool times.
Yeah, it was really. And also the kind of, we were all a little bit crazy in that sense that we believed in something. I remember my first day at job. Then we didn't have mobile phones and we didn't have any kind of a mega internet that was actually working and so on. So what I did on my first day, I got a list of all the jeans shops in Finland, and I got a Finnish map of Finland. And then I started calling. Hello, this is Petronella from Diesel. I would like to come by and show you some jeans. Oh, poor girl, you have called wrong. This is a clothing store, not a gas station. And that was the answer, but that's how it started. And I got some meetings booked, and then they put me and a car in a train up to the north of Finland. And then I started driving down and meeting all these jeans stores.
But I think you actually managed to hit it rather big in US as well. I can still remember one day I went down Manhattan at some point in New York, and someone came up to me and said, you must be really rich. You have Diesel jeans on you. If you go with Levi's, it's like nothing there. And diesel was really, I think hot at that time.
Yeah, it was. And it was also kind of a very high-end brand because it was, of course...
it's Italian, right? Is Italian,
it's Italian, yeah.
Milano-based? Or?
No, it's close to Venice. Like
Venice.
Like all of the kind of clothing industries all gathered there. And in a little town of Molvena where Renzo Rosso, a genius, who started the whole thing and gathered a bunch of fantastic profiles around him. And that was just kind of really thinking out of the box and doing something awesome with something that has been on the market for a long time.
Yeah. And now to move on a little bit, another cool thing we should talk about is that, of course, from the fashion industry and this making a transition, how do you move in? How is your journey to the data space where you are today? So let's talk about that a little bit.
I worked, as said, at Diesel for quite a long time, and we hit kind of the top marks and so on, and it was kind of an awesome place to be. After a while, so I started to kind of wanted to develop myself as well and see maybe some other industries, not only fashion industry, because I was young and I didn't want to make the decision that fashion is my life forever. So I need to see something else. And Finland being a small market, so consultancy company felt like a good option because then you get to work in different. You don't have to commit
to the industry, right? Yes.
Yeah, exactly. But you can try, kind of. And I got recruited to one of the big fours in CRM, customer relationship management, because they thought that the kind of a way of thinking that I had learned from Diesel with understanding the customer and generating win-win and value and so on. So it was.
The future.
Yeah, the future. And they had this CRM strategies and processes, kind of a change management.
But still one of the big fours, American consultant.
Yeah. And it was very different. Let's say like this crazy family with no hierarchies and everybody kind of doing this together and so on into the very kind of other kind of environment. So it was also a kind of, but it was exciting as well to see how a company can be run also and be successful. And of course, there I also saw the kind of the structures of how to build strategies, how to build successful companies, how to get processes working, and what is the change all about, like in a more systematic way. So I got this awesome toolkit with me.
A great toolkit and also a crash course.
Definitely.
In this way.
Yeah.
And then from CRM, I guess the state of CRM now and then moving into the data space.
Yeah, because CRM was, it was in that point that there was a big hype of implementing CRM systems and working with customer data in some way. And usually you categorize the customers like A, B, C, like the best customers and not so interesting ones, and it was very much kind of out from the corporate perspective,
an inside-out perspective.
Yeah, exactly, and cost efficiency more than creating win-win situations for the customer and the company. And I got really interested about data mining algorithms and started to read about them. And I also, actually, I didn't even have time to graduate from business school of Helsinki yet. So I was studying a mathematical subject that's called management science, where we try to model the world with math and do optimization models and so on. And then I had combination of marketing, which was totally crazy at that time. So there I got kind of my eyes on the data and how to utilize and how to learn more of stuff that we don't figure out with our heads, that we can actually kind of have algorithms that find more information and do not have that kind of maybe the bias in them to find these kind of win-win situations.
And from here now, I think then it's what's Intensia?
Yes, yeah, the Swedish ERP.
So then from CRM and consulting to the vendor space, if you like.
Yeah, because then I got headhunted there, and they had just launched a data warehouse product, very, very first one. I can't even remember. It was based on the SQL Server version, whatever. I don't know. It was very old, and it was like a pioneer job to get that thing working, but still it was the first data warehouse. They wanted to build a business around the data warehousing and BI, and I got the job to build that business in Finland in there.
And just to have some technical parts of this as well, data warehouse is the term that's used by by many people, and there are other terms like data lakes, and you can have different type of databases, whatever kind. What is your preferred definition of like a data warehouse?
Yeah, I think at this point, data warehouse was in the beginning. It was somewhere where you, from the operational systems that are really kind of designed for processing transactions and being efficient in that way, but not very good in summarizing the data and giving you kind of KPIs and analysis and so on. So what we did was to gather that data into a data warehouse in order to restructure that for more analytical purposes, so that you can have reports and dashboards and that kind of stuff. Nowadays, I think data warehouse serves purpose in the bigger kind of a data platform context. It can be one part of a larger data platform where you have different kinds, because you have so many different kinds of users and use cases for data nowadays. So it's not only the reporting.
What do you think about the data lake concept? Do you have any feelings or thoughts about that?
Yeah, well, I have no kind of a huge love or hate relationship toward data lakes. It depends how you build it. I think the most important thing we work a lot with and almost only with the cloud-based data platforms, and data lake is somewhere like the one part of the solution, but it's you need to govern the data, because data is not kind of structured in the same way, and you can also, of course, like build a data lake that is total mess if you don't have kind of the supporting governance and the structures and data catalogs and this and that. So you have to have an idea, but it's one part of a data platform, and it can serve a purpose for some use cases, but maybe you need a data warehouse to complement that for modeling purposes and so on.
So it's not like they're replacing each other; it's like two complements rather than
Yes, because you have a lot of different. Then there is the kind of the emerging concept of data mesh that is actually and that's really interesting, because it's more of a kind of a trading data between maybe business units or functions, or maybe kind of even externally.
Well, if we try to just clarify for people what the differences are, some people say data lakes is basically the raw data. You just pour in the lake, so to speak, and then you can put some structure on it and get some kind of warehouse, perhaps from more operational databases that you have, and then the data mesh. How would you describe the differences?
Yeah, you can. It depends. It depends on the company and the needs as well. But of course, the data lake is usually kind of described exactly like you say, that it's a little bit more unstructured data that you take in. But there, as said, you can't be totally unstructured, because then you can't find the data. And sometimes you don't need the data warehouse, so you can actually enter the data lake and fetch whatever you want to. And data can be also kind of pushed into processes directly and so on. And data warehouse can be both kind of the analytical purposes or kind of a structuring and doing some other stuff in there.
But I think we can come back to that, because I think moving now into where you are now, Solita, and a little bit you highlight what Solita is, or which company this is. I think a very interesting conversation to have today is, of course, you are experiencing and meeting a lot of different types of customers who are trying to go on a data journey. And I think that will be very interesting to understand what are you meeting, or what are we meeting now in the enterprise? What is the enterprise understanding of these different concepts? Coming maybe from different application-centric views on a warehouse is something else than the other things. And now we're talking about different pieces of a bigger puzzle as a platform. So let's go back to that. But moving into that first, I think framing Solita, because Intensia, and then I guess you got an opportunity with Solita.
Yeah, there was a couple of steps before that. In between, because Solita, I started at Solita 3 years ago, and I already moved to Stockholm like 15 years ago. So
so there is a couple of steps.
There is a couple of steps there in between. But Solita was totally unknown company for me when they called me. And it was really, really nice story. There is this recruitment ninja Kati Kitty, who called me and said, "Hi, I'm from Solita. How are you doing?" And I was like, "What is Solita? And who are you? What's that name?" Yeah, and we started talking, and I met this fantastic Finnish company that was really kind of not professional in kind of making noise about themselves, some kind of a hybrid between a developer community meeting a huge amount of data, professionals, and kind of a gaming company meeting consultancy hybrid that I have never seen in Sweden before that day, and it was awesome. We had plenty of discussions. I was absolutely not going to change my job and so on. But
where were you then when you got the call? That
point of time I was at the software company. I had been in the consultancies in between, and a software company where I was actually a CMO for the Palette software, was that called, and totally like. It was interesting, but it's I have this passion for data, so it was quite tempting then, the discussions with Solita. But for me, it was this kind of realization that these guys are doing something in a different way. They are kind of courageous enough to kind of prove that the way that they are doing stuff is actually kind of creating an impact and doing a difference on a market, even though it's a little bit kind of hard to understand maybe. But yeah.
And when did Solita start in Finland? Where's the origin of Solita?
Yeah, Solita is actually from Tampere, which is a little bit like a Silicon Valley nowadays in Finland. There are these kind of big cloud companies like Cybercom and Nordcloud and so on are from Tampere also. So a lot of that kinds of companies there, but Solita was founded already 25 years ago, or which year is it now? I thought it was
2020.
Oh yeah. So 25 years ago, and ever since they have been like a developer company from the beginning, a spin-off from Nokia, which was their first kind of big client. And there they also kind of bumped into huge amounts of data with the Chinese telecom companies and so on. So that's kind of in the DNA, this kind of approach to data, and also kind of an opportunistic way of looking at the market and trying to find new ways of doing stuff and new tech and just a little bit wild ideas.
Yeah, because I think Solita has now come into the market and is now, I think, in 2020 a known brand in the IT consulting space in Sweden. I think I remember the first time I met Solita was at one of the conferences. I was doing a round table moderation for this is the Solita table, and then I got to talk to some very cool. Quite senior guys or founding guys. I can't remember who it was, but it was some of the, and they were cool. They were super cool. I remember this.
Yeah.
And I was a little bit different.
Yeah.
And I think then you were like I guess like 600-700 around 2016, 17.
Yeah.
And now Solita is like what? 12 or 1,500?
Yeah, 1,200 now. And now we're actually, at that time, so Solita actually had a company only in Finland.
Yes.
So we had only the Finnish offices.
Yes.
And Sweden, and also simultaneously Estonia was our first kind of entries abroad. And we're now in 6 different countries. So we are expanding really fast. And we founded the Solita AB, the Swedish company, in 2018 in January. So actually, kind of our journey hasn't been that long, but now we're already 125 people and growing. So it has been really an interesting and fast journey.
Yeah, and now to ask a question then. If I take Sweden and even an even smaller dock pond of Stockholm. It's a quite intense market when it comes to BI, data warehousing. And this industry is quite interesting because we have a lot of the older players. We have the big vendors has head offices here. We have some newer spin-offs, smaller companies that are still working in the same space that, Spark is a good example. Yeah. And then you have, completely new kind of startup scene, very much data AI, hardcore, Peltarion is here, but also consultancies who are sort of coming into this even more machine learning. So how would you describe the Swedish market, and how would you describe Solita's position and what you want to, what is your USP, unique selling point? Or what's your story?
Yeah, we have kind of when we came to the market, so of course, like in Finland, you have 25 years of history and people kind of know you, and you have this kind of a broad variety of services that you provide to your customers and so on. You operate on the public and private sectors. And when we came to Sweden, so first we decided that our entry will be on the private sector only, focusing on cloud-based data platforms. And we didn't talk about data warehousing. We don't talk about BI.
No, exactly.
and what we are talking about is how to help larger enterprises and companies to become data-driven for real. And our approach is also combining different skill sets. So you have to have kind of a service and business design skill set to understand how a human works. And then you have to have different kinds of data competencies, of course, cloud infrastructure competencies. You have to integrate, you have to do APIs, you have to develop maybe some software and services. So combining all of these kind of aspects we have this kind of a 9-piece data-driven puzzle with all kinds of pieces in the puzzle that you have to figure out before you can become data-driven. And actually kind of have data as an asset.
That sounds like an interesting topic to get more into. Nine pieces of a puzzle, you said, to become data-driven.
Yeah.
Oh. Should we? Could you give a quick intro? What are the 9 pieces?
Yeah, it's kind of a framework, because usually when somebody tells you that, okay, we need to become data-driven, we need to be better in serving our customers, or more efficient in our processes and so on. So it's a human nature that you start figuring out solutions. You go into the tech piece directly, and we data lake and data warehouse, and then we need this and that, and a little bit algorithms, and then we need this app. But what is the most important and the toughest part maybe is to kind of define the strategy and what actually the data-drivenness means for your company. What is the level?
From a business point of view.
Yes. Is it that you have awesome dashboards, or is it that you inject kind of data in your daily processes and automate with AI machine learning? Or is it that you actually sell database services or data? So it becomes your merchandise instead. So, and then there is a lot of variation between these different kinds of options. But just to kind of, just to kind of figure out that kind of first. And of course, it's a transformation. We talk about data-driven transformation, a big push on the transformation, because it means so much. When you start to kind of treat data as an asset, so it all of a sudden breaks down your old structures, because that asset is important for everybody in the organization. So you can't have this hierarchical kind of businesses here, IT there, these silos and levels, but it kind of brings the company to kind of around one common topic, and it tends to break a little bit of the old rules. And there you have to also kind of keep in mind the different ways of working, processes, your kind of organization, skill sets, and all of that kind of supporting. Tech part is quite easy. There is fantastic solutions, and you can put up whatever with the modern technology and the cloud. But the most important thing is to think about what is our kind of ambition in the data-drivenness, and then start to figure out, how are we going to make this happen?
I'm eager to go to the analytical ladder, but have you heard about that concept, the analytical ladder kind of thing?
No. Enlighten me.
So,
go for it.
So there are many different ways to describe the journey to become sort of data and AI driven. And some of those concepts has been around for years. I think maybe Gartner had a storyline around this, but there are very many variations on it. But it goes a little bit something like first we come from descriptive reporting, right? We're looking at the past, and now we want to be diagnostic, and then we are moving towards predictive and prescriptive. And then at the top of this ladder nowadays, we can have AI, And it's interesting because I think in the conversations we've had here, and this is why we want to talk to you about this, is that to some degree, yes, it's a fine analogy, but we also need to debunk some myths here, because it's one way. I mean, like we have been talking about the difference between advanced analytics and machine learning engineering as an example. Yeah. So hardcore, an analytical ladder is sort of still is going with the hat on. The data is done for insights, right? And we are data scientists. It's more advanced analytics and different. We can use more fancy algorithms to create insights. Whilst if you're hardcore coming from that the machine learning is a new coding paradigm. You don't need an analytical ladder to start with neural networks if you understand the problem and you solve the problem. Yeah. So that's a little bit the framing. So how do you see this sort of?
I think the analytical ladder, as you call it, it might be kind of a development of the different solutions. I would see that kind of I don't know if it's a maturity of a company. It doesn't have anything to do with that. I think because if you look at it kind of in a data-driven world, you might have all of those solutions. Or parts of those solutions. So I think that is kind of describing different kind of the evolution of technology more than the maturity of a company.
And I think this is the point, right? Because it was used as a maturity concept, and it was used so a little bit like you need to do that, and then you need to do that. And I think that can tie back into maybe elaborate a little bit more about what you said. Warehousing is just one of a data manipulation need you have in a data platform with many other needs. And if you start looking at the analytical ladder, we have different data management scenarios.
Exactly.
It has no starting and end. It has a use case that needs a certain type of manipulation.
Exactly. It's like picking the right tool for the
for the
or the method for the job. What makes the kind of use case come alive?
And if I tie it back now to a little bit how you describe Solita, the way I understand the storyline is a little bit like, let's not talk about that we are a BI company. Let's not talk about that we are advanced analytics or machine learning company. So it's more about the whole platform is here, and there are many different facets how we can use it. Yeah. And ultimately, we don't only need techie guys. We need to create value.
Exactly. That's very good interpretation. And what we have kind of had as our punchline is actually we're the data company. That's what we say. Yeah. So that's our kind of a positioning on the market. And but that's totally correct. So the holistic view on data and data drivenness, and it doesn't have to be. There are lots of different tools and methods, and you name it. And you need all kinds of pieces, and that's only kind of usually we just kind of circle around the tech piece. That's the easiest.
And to now move, okay, so that's Solita, I think, and a little bit like that. Where's the state of you started on the private sector, so where is the state of the enterprise in understanding this? Where are they? How does their landscape look like today, and how does this resonate? Do they understand what you're talking about?
Yes, it was funny because 2017, when we started meeting potential clients, so they were very kind of wowed by the reference cases from Finland, what we had already done. And they were like, oh my God, that would be awesome, but we are not even close to that. And there was very little talk about cloud. AWS had just started in Sweden, and we had already then been working with AWS for 8 years.
And you're comparing like Finnish to Swedish companies.
Yeah. Yes. So because we did only have reference cases from Finland, so and also kind of we started like the development, the programming in AWS cloud, and then they started pushing the kind of the data side into the cloud and so on. So that's why we have been there for a long time, and also Snowflake, for example. So we have been kind of working with Snowflake many years before they found themselves in the Nordics. So that's a little bit awesome thing as well. So we were the pioneers, and nobody understood. It felt like at Diesel, when I was calling to the shops. So I was doing that again, and people are like, wow,
And
what a story.
I can just imagine they were trying to pigeonhole you. Are you a BI company? Can you do Power BI? Are you a warehouse company? Or are you a cloud company?
Yeah.
Is that it, right?
Exactly so. Exactly so. And they were like, would you be able to do AI POC? Because that was cool thing to do then. And we're like, yeah, but we maybe should be starting like thinking about your core business and that. And it was like a little bit of mismatch there, how to communicate and discuss. But we had the kind of the strong belief that the kind of the cloud era is coming. Not cloud era, but cloud era.
That's a
because
good one.
cloud era was already gone.
That was a
Sorry.
fun story.
Yeah. So.